Imagine, if you will, a world where the dragon never truly awakened. A world where the seismic shift of China's economic reforms, initiated by Deng Xiaoping, simply never happened. It's a thought experiment that unravels the very fabric of our modern reality. Today, we delve into that profound what if. What if China remained largely closed off, its vast potential locked away behind ideological walls? The impacts, as we shall see, would ripple through geopolitics, reshape the global economy, and fundamentally alter the daily lives of billions. Let us cast our minds back to the 1980s, a decade defined by the twilight of the Cold War. Deng Xiaoping, a pragmatist of immense stature, was carefully navigating China's future. His vision involved a cautious economic opening, a delicate dance between growth and the Communist Party's iron grip. He championed the four modernizations, aiming to revitalize agriculture, industry, national defense, and science and technology. Yet this path was fraught with internal resistance from hardliners who viewed market reforms as a betrayal of socialist principles. In our alternate timeline, these voices gain ascendancy. Perhaps a critical political misstep or a more severe internal power struggle tips the balance. The reforms are either significantly slowed or, worse, reversed entirely. The pivotal moment of Tiananmen Square in 1989, rather than being a temporary setback, becomes a definitive catalyst for an even deeper inward turn and a more brutal crackdown. The immediate consequences would be stark. Foreign investment, already tentative, would dry up almost completely. The special economic zones, those beacons of early reform, would stagnate, becoming mere ghost towns of unfulfilled ambition. Information and ideas, already tightly controlled, would face even more severe restrictions, creating an intellectual vacuum. The long-term economic impact would be nothing short of transformative. China's development would proceed at a glacial pace, if at all. The massive manufacturing boom that reshaped global supply chains would simply not occur. Consequently, the world would never witness the rise of Chinese tech giants like Huawei, Alibaba, or Tencent, as we know them today. The absence of an economically ascendant China would send shockwaves across the globe. For the United States, the loss of such a massive trading partner would be keenly felt. Consumer goods, from electronics to clothing, would become significantly more expensive, impacting household budgets across the nation. Instead, other Asian economies would accelerate their rise. South Korea, Taiwan, and Vietnam, already industrializing, would eagerly fill the manufacturing void left by a closed China. Their economies would boom, becoming the primary workshops of the world. One might even speculate on the fate of the Soviet Union. If it had survived, a weaker, isolated China might have presented an opportunity for stronger Soviet influence in Asia, altering the Cold War's endgame entirely. The geopolitical landscape would be unrecognizable. The US would face a different set of challenges, perhaps focusing more on other emerging powers. A more multipolar world might have emerged sooner, with the accelerated rise of nations like India or Brazil taking center stage. China's entry into the World Trade Organization, a cornerstone of global trade, would never happen. This absence would fundamentally alter global trade rules and institutions, creating a very different economic order. Even the environment would feel the impact. Less severe industrialization in China would mean fewer localized pollution issues there. However, global climate challenges would persist, albeit with different primary contributors and a vastly altered landscape for international cooperation on solutions. Within China itself, the human cost of continued isolation would be immense. Freedoms of speech, press, and assembly, already limited, would be even more severely restricted. The state's control over information would be absolute, with no glimmer of the Internet's liberating potential. The digital world, as we know it, would be a foreign concept. Economic opportunities would remain scarce for the vast majority. Millions would languish in poverty, and the rich-poor gap, if it existed at all, would be defined by political favor rather than market success. The cultural landscape would be profoundly insular. Less Western influence would mean a more homogeneous, state-sanctioned artistic output. Exposure to global art, music, and literature would be minimal, creating a society largely cut off from the broader human experience. The vibrant Chinese diaspora, a global network of cultural and economic exchange, would be significantly diminished. Smaller communities abroad would mean reduced cultural exchange and less understanding between China and the rest of the world. It would be a nation frozen in time, culturally and socially. A closed China would mean a significantly slower military modernization. The People's Liberation Army, without the economic engine to fund advanced weaponry and research, would remain a formidable but less globally capable force. Its ambitions would be tempered by its limited reach. The South China Sea, a current flashpoint, would likely see less assertive claims and a far more tempered military presence. Without the economic imperative or the technological means, China's expansionist tendencies would be curtailed. This would fundamentally alter regional dynamics. US-China relations, without the complex web of economic interdependence, could be far more volatile. The potential for conflict, unmitigated by shared financial interests, might be significantly higher. The delicate balance of power we observe today would be entirely absent. The regional balance of power would shift dramatically. Less pressure would be exerted on Japan and South Korea, allowing them to develop their own regional influence more freely. India, unburdened by a rising Chinese neighbor, would likely accelerate its own ascent as a regional and global power. The global arms race would follow a very different trajectory. Without China's rapid military buildup, other nations might not feel the same pressure to modernize their own forces. This would reshape global security, altering the dynamics for proxy wars, international diplomacy, and the very structure of international organizations. In this alternate reality, China's technological advancements would be severely curtailed. The nation would not dominate in areas like 5G, artificial intelligence, or renewable energy. Its internal market, isolated from global competition, would foster less innovation. The global tech race would therefore look entirely different. The US, Europe, and perhaps Japan or South Korea would face altered challenges and opportunities, without a major Chinese competitor pushing the boundaries. The pace and direction of innovation would be fundamentally changed. The Internet's development would also be profoundly affected. China's Great Firewall in our timeline has influenced global debates on Internet sovereignty and censorship. In this scenario, its existence might have a different, perhaps even more restrictive, global ripple effect on how nations view and control digital information. The Chinese tech giants we know today, Huawei, Alibaba, Tencent, would simply not achieve global scale. Their innovations would remain largely confined within China's borders if they even emerged at all. This would leave a significant void in the global digital economy. The race for AI dominance would be contested by different players, with different ethical and developmental trajectories. Furthermore, the global shift towards renewable energy would likely be much slower. Without China's massive investment and manufacturing capacity in solar panels and wind turbines, the world would face even greater climate challenges. The world would be a less vibrant place without China's cultural contributions. Reduced cultural exchange would mean fewer new ideas, less diverse art, and a diminished understanding between peoples. The rich tapestry of global culture would have a significant thread missing. The influence of Chinese arts, cinema, music, literature would be far smaller on the global stage. Iconic films, groundbreaking music, and influential authors would remain largely unknown outside China's borders. The world would be poorer for it. A less diverse global culture would also mean a slower spread of Chinese cuisine, fashion, and other cultural elements. The ubiquitous presence of Chinese restaurants, for example, might be a rarity. Global tourism would also suffer immensely. The absence of millions of Chinese tourists would impact economies worldwide and reduce opportunities for cross-cultural understanding. Within China, restricted social interactions would be the norm. The limited flow of information and ideas would stifle freedom of expression for its people. Human rights concerns, already a sensitive topic, would likely be even worse, with limited international influence or awareness to act as a check. So, what specific events might have steered China down this path of continued isolation? A major economic crisis, perhaps hyperinflation or mass unemployment in the early reform years, could have led to a hardliner takeover, blaming market forces for the instability. A political crisis, such as the premature death of Deng Xiaoping at a critical juncture, or a more intense internal power struggle, could have easily derailed the reform agenda. The delicate balance he maintained was crucial. The aftermath of Tiananmen Square could have been far more severe. A crippling wave of international sanctions, coupled with an even more brutal internal crackdown, might have forced the party to completely reverse its reformist course, retreating into ideological purity. External factors also played a role. The continued existence of the Soviet Union, or a prolonged Cold War, might have fostered a greater fear of Western influence within China. This fear could have been exploited by hardliners to justify a more isolationist stance, prioritizing ideological purity over economic pragmatism. In this world, the global superpower dynamics would be fundamentally different. The US would face a different set of challenges, and the accelerated rise of other powers like India or a stronger Europe would reshape the international order. The global economy would be unrecognizable. Manufacturing, supply chains, and trade flows would be entirely reconfigured. Consumer prices would be higher, and the interconnectedness we take for granted would be far less pronounced. The technological landscape would evolve at a different pace, with different players leading the charge. The digital world, communication, and innovation would all bear the mark of China's absence. It would be a less interconnected world, certainly less diverse and arguably less vibrant culturally and socially. The human cost, both within China and globally, would be significant. Millions would remain in poverty, and the human rights landscape would be profoundly altered. Even the environmental impact would be different, presenting unique climate change challenges and requiring entirely different solutions. We have glimpsed into a world where the dragon remained asleep, a world profoundly different from our own. It serves as a powerful reminder that history is not a fixed path, but a series of choices, decisions, and turning points. What do you think? How else might the world have changed if China had never opened up? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this journey into alternative history intriguing, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration. We're always keen to hear your ideas for future videos. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep imagining.